Since the beginning of time, the armies, navies, and air forces of the world have been at the forefront of innovation. Even an apparently simple accessory like footwear has undergone a fair bit of changes and evolution. But have you ever wondered why military-inspired garments and footwear are frequently worn by civilians? It actually makes a lot of sense once you look into it. And that's what we're going to do today in this video. We will start our journey in Rome, where sandals made of leather called the caligae were first used. Even though the Egyptians had been making and using primal footwear long before, the caligae stood out from the rest due to its uncanny resemblance to modern footwear. Compared to today's shoes, these were rather flimsy and did not have a robust sole. However, the caligae met the requirements of the Roman army and was highly effective at what it did. The open structure of these sandals helped the soldiers' feet breathe, which helped prevent infections that were prevalent in the moist Mediterranean climate. Furthermore, the lightweight nature of these sandals allowed the Roman soldiers to march up to 25 miles a day. This is a massive differentiator in war because walking 25 miles a day and fighting battles can take its toll. And if you had to do it with blisters on your feet, you wouldn't be able to build Rome anytime soon. But the Romans did, and much of the credit goes to the oddly shaped caligae. We can see that many open-toed design sandals and hobnailed boots are in vogue now. And now you know where the design inspiration comes from. Isn't it cool how we're still sort of wearing the same kind of attire that people were wearing centuries ago? It's wild. The caligae was tremendously popular, and it really did help the Roman Empire in its expansion. However, just like any other fashion trend, the caligae was soon replaced by more functional and appealing footwear. The Roman army had decided to move on to using the calcei because of its better warmth and protection, and maybe even its aesthetic appeal? I don't know, what do you guys think? You think these were fire back then? This was an enclosed design that became very popular among Roman soldiers as well as ordinary Roman citizens. This is one of the first times in history when we see the silhouette of a modern military boot developing. One of the distinguishing features of this boot was its sole. Up until this point, there was no Roman shoe that had been produced that had an external heel. These boots had an internal heel which was made by layering pieces of leather on top of each other. Over centuries, things kept evolving and we saw many different designs of military shoes in between. Fast forward to the industrial age, and manufacturing solved a lot of problems for militaries worldwide. During World War I, many countries entered a total war economy, wherein a large portion of the population's jobs contribute to the war in some kind of way. One of those jobs that was contributing to the war was working at a shoe factory, and it was during this era that the modern day military boot was born. During the early parts of World War I, American soldiers were developing trench foot, a condition in which the foot rots due to long exposure to moisture and cold temperatures. It wasn't until 1918 when General John Pershing of the US Army made changes to its predecessor, the russet marching shoe, that the issues with trench foot would finally get fixed. This was achieved by adding thicker leather, a more waterproof construction, a triple thick sole, and iron toe cleats. It became the standard service boot, but the US Army continued innovating on the standard service boot, and during World War II, the boot featured a high top design for more ankle support and also introduced a brogue toe cap. Towards the end of World War II, this boot was replaced by the M1943 combat boot, which had the upper lace holes removed and instead opted for a double buckle strap for support. Since we're talking about the brogued cap, let's talk about the long-standing tradition of shoe shining in the military. In the army, taking care of your gear has always been important. Many techniques used by professional shoe shiners today were created by recruits trying to make it as easy as possible to achieve that glossy shine, to show determination, and to show professionalism and perfection. There was even innovation happening on the casual side of things. One such example is the chukka boot, which was originally worn by off-duty Indian soldiers back in the early 1900s. An iteration of the boot made its way to the British Army during the Western Desert Campaign of World War II. The reason why these are called desert boots is that they were extensively crafted by the cobblers of Cairo, who had to make boots that could thrive in the deserts of Egypt. After the Desert Campaign, some of the men from the British Army set foot in Burma for another exhibition. Nathan Clark from the Clark's family of shoemakers was also on military duty in Burma at the time, and when he noticed the sleek boots they had brought back from Cairo, he was inspired. He took the initial design and made some tweaks and created what we know today as the Clark's Desert Boot, which launched in the UK back in 1949. During this time, we'd see a gradual transition in the design language of military footwear. The designs that came after this period were the ones that helped establish the roots of the sneaker era, if you want to call it. If you're a trainer enthusiast, then you might be able to guess which shoe we're about to cover next. Need a clue to guess the correct answer? This is a shoe that helped one particular brand gain a competitive edge over its former sister brand turned competitor. If your guess was the GAT, also known as the German Army trainer, then you are absolutely correct. In the early 70s, the West German Army was seeking new training shoes for its soldiers, and given the sheer size of their army, it was a lucrative contract to be had. As a result, two of Germany's biggest sportwear and sneaker manufacturers set their sights on outfitting the men, Adidas and Puma. While it's unclear which of the rival companies actually produced the trainer, Adidas has publicly acknowledged that they are the ones who designed it. So they say. And honestly, my intuition tells me that they did it because the design cues from the GAT can still be seen in various other sneakers sold by Adidas to this day. The GAT was great for training soldiers due to its grippy sole and rugged upper. You can actually still find a well-functioning pair of these shoes from the leftover stock, and surprisingly, they hold up really well according to some people. Have you guys ever owned a pair? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright, since we're on the topic of sneakers, let's briefly talk about some of the more popular sneakers that have taken direct inspiration from the military. For me, the first pair of sneakers that I think of is the Air Jordan 5, because the design is directly inspired by World War II fighter plane decals, specifically the shark tooth detail, which you can see on the midsole of the silhouette. I love the aggressive look of the Air Jordan 5. Obviously, when it comes to fashion, camo is one of the best-selling patterns in the world, and it's been seen on all types of sneakers like the Air Max and Bape duck camo joints, the undefeated Kobe 1s, and the Supreme Air Force 1s. Supreme loves throwing camo on things, as does Bape. And the list goes on and on and on. I mean, the military has influenced sneakers and fashion in so many ways. From simple lanterns to microchips to shoes, military tech has been the forerunner in the world of innovation because they have the resources and the money and the power. With that being said, guys, please consider subscribing to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.